Consciousness is the light that emanates from the consciousness is not God in the same way that the light of the sun is not the sun. And
conscious practice. What's conscious? This is V, and today I'll be responding to ECKHART Tolle's video on Can you understand the mind of God? My name is V. I'm an aspiring yogi, love all things meditation, yoga and wisdom based. Super grateful to have you watching this with me. ECKHART Tolle is one of the first spiritual teachers I found in my journey, so I'm super excited to watch this. With that being said, let's get into the video.
Einstein said, "I want to know the mind of God. The rest is details." Somebody asked what that means here. And of course, the mind of God is consciousness. Consciousness is the light that emanates from the consciousness is not God in the same way that the light of the sun is not the sun. And yet, on the other hand, the light of the sun is one with the sun. But you couldn't quite say this light, this is the sun. In the same way, your consciousness, which is not yours, the essence of who you are, the light of the world, is an emanation from the source of all life. And so I use the analogy of the sun. And there's a good reason why in many ancient civilizations the sun was regarded as God, because it's a continuous outpouring of life energy. And so in the sense-perceived universe, the closest analogy one can find is you can point to the sun and say that is like continuous emanation. All life derives from it. And the life, the consciousness in things is that. So, God realization is the realization of I am that I am, your I am identity. And that's God speaking, but it would also be you speaking. So it doesn't transform the ray of the sun into the sun, but it makes the ray of the sunlight aware of its origin and its home and what it is still connected with and always remains connected with. At some point we need to transcend the naive beliefs in what God is as a controlling figure that created the world a long time ago, and then he walked away and lost interest, or maybe he's still interested, but somehow things are not going well. Or he's condemning people for being dysfunctional, and then, of course, there are many arguments you could raise against that kind of view of God, and that's the traditional argument of people who don't believe in God, believe in God, who say, if there were a God who controls everything and supposedly loves people, or maybe doesn't love, but he's controlling things, then if there is a God, how would he allow all that suffering and evil to happen in this world? Therefore, they say, there is no God. Or they say, therefore, God is morally inferior to us, because we can see the injustices and the terrible things that happen in this world, and we are touched by it, but God isn't. Therefore, God is some inferior creature that created the world out of malevolent intent. That was actually a belief held by many of the Gnostics, ancient Christian and pre-Christian group of people who otherwise had also some interesting teachings, but they believed that the entire physical universe was the creation of a malevolent deity, an inferior deity. I can see why, in some way, but it's not the case. So there isn't a controlling figure there that is. So we need to go beyond that image, that anthropomorphic image of a paternal authority figure, and realize that God is the life in all beings. God manifests as the life in all beings. God is the consciousness in you, is the emanation of God. God lives through you. Everything that happens, humans, God is suffering in humans in a way, you could say. That's what the Christian teaching means. So it is a gradual emergence of consciousness. And the suffering is more like a dreamlike thing to God. It's like a bad dream, as in the process of emergence of that God consciousness into this dimension. So human beings are not autonomous entities. It's not you, your consciousness, his consciousness, her consciousness. Every human is a temporary expression of the one consciousness.
Well, that was definitely an interesting video. It's been a while since I've reacted to an Eckhart Tolle video, so I'm super grateful to have watched this. And it was definitely interesting. Lots to unpack, and right off the bat, I will say maybe it's just because I'm not conscious enough, maybe, I don't know. It was a little harder to follow at times and in certain parts of the video. However, I think I connected with the core of it, and that's what matters ultimately. First off, God as we tend to know it, or know of it, or him or her, however you refer to God, is not, again, this is just what I've realized, so I'm open to being wrong, right? I don't want to make it as a very certain based talk here. But God is really not this guy that has a magic wand that creates everything. It's a really interesting way to put it, because creation and consciousness are sort of connected. It's almost like, as he says with the sun analogy, which I think was great, there's the light emanating, if I said that word right, from the sun, the light from the sun. And the light is the aliveness. I guess I almost view it as, at the very literal level, imagine there was a switch that just knocked us all cold, like we're still technically alive, but our awareness was just gone. Imagine like the whole world has collapsed, right? Everyone just fell asleep. But now you turn the switch on, now the light is making this very imagery based. And at least this is how I connect with it. So the light is then filling up our bodies with awareness, and that awareness is coming from the consciousness, as he says. The light is coming from the sun. The awareness that we have, technically we don't have it, as he says, but the awareness that we operate sort of under is coming from this creator or consciousness. Then they'll go hand in hand. It's a beautiful, beautiful sort of phenomenon when you can connect with it, and maybe the explanation I'm providing isn't the best. So if you have any other explanations here on what it means in a simpler way, please comment down below. Would love to hear it, and this could help others too in understanding the video. But yeah, that is pretty much it from my side. It's really just a beauty and appreciation of consciousness. That's essentially what is running us. And it's interesting, and it's important to realize that a lot of this is beyond the mind. The mind is, we have the conscious mind, because the mind is ultimately the tool that kind of consciousness uses to speak as I'm speaking to you. But there's also unconscious parts where it's not awareness. It's just regurgitated mind talk to itself. So it's egoic in nature, as Eckhart Tolle would refer to it as. Yeah. So let's make it clear that the mind is separate, but consciousness can use the mind. You are that. You are using the mind. You're not the mind directly, if that makes sense. Thank you so much for watching this with me. I appreciate you taking this time. Would love to hear your views on what I've shared or what Eckhart Tolle shared. Let me know in the comments down below. If you have any other video reaction requests by Eckhart Tolle or just other gurus and spiritual teachers, let me know also in the comments down below. With that, make this a great day. Take it joyful and stay conscious. Ecstasy.